What's going on, everybody? It's Jackson here at Cafe Rica, and today I'm going to show you how to make our red sauce. It's something we've been planning on doing for a while, and we just haven't had the time, but now we're going to. Can't have dine-in customers, so we got a little extra time. So it's got a small amount of ingredients, very easy to make. It just takes a little bit of time and knowledge. So we got onions, garlic, ancho chili peppers, tomatoes, chipotle peppers and adobo sauce, olive oil, limes, and cumin. So what we do, also got some water in here with some olive oil. So what we're gonna do first is take these dried ancho chilies, put them in here, get those things boiling up a little bit and rehydrating. So those are dehydrated peppers, makes them last longer, but we're gonna rehydrate them in the water and the oil. I also have my giant spoon. So what you need to do is you just need to stir those up a little bit, make sure they get covered all the way up in the water. And then let those boil a little bit so they can reconstitute and get all that water back in. So what we're gonna do next is cut up some onions. We're doing a double batch today, so usually this recipe is 1 onion, 5 medium-sized tomatoes, 2 cans of the chipotle peppers, 8 dried ancho chilies, 2 limes, 16 ounces of water, and what we got here? I got a whole clove of garlic. Usually it's like 4 or 5 little cloves. So you just got to do a rough chop on these onions. We're gonna hit this with the emulsifier later, so it doesn't need to be super uniform chop. Just needs to be small enough to blend up. We have a hand blender that we use here. So we also just got this new pot. This new pot is much bigger, lets us make more of this sauce because we were thinking about actually selling it as just the sauce and not just on our food items. We've got a lot of positive feedback about the sauce, and we just want to be able to share it with all of you. So we're going to throw the onions in here next. Get those in there, get those cooking down, get some of that onion flavor in with these peppers. And cut up this second onion here. This year, especially in 2020, I've been watching a lot of cooking shows. I've always loved to cook. It wasn't until very recently that it was part of my livelihood. It's just one of the things I've always loved doing. When I was a kid, my dad cooked a lot. My mom cooked a lot too, but my dad did. So it was not weird for me to see a man cooking. I know traditionally not too many men cook for their families. My dad did all the time, so it's not a strange sight for me to see. And so that kind of propelled me into just really loving to cook. And I wouldn't call myself an amateur chef or a foodie or anything like that. I just enjoy cooking and enjoy making good food for people. So get this rough chop in here. We learned this recipe from our friend Braulio Green when we were planning on moving over here to our new location. We knew we were going to start doing more quesadillas and asked him if he had any sauces or anything like that that could help us out. Because anybody can just make a quesadilla with cheese, beans, some sort of meat, and it's fine. It's a quesadilla. But we like to go a little bit extra. We put peppers and onions in all of our quesadillas. We season them. We put some sort of sauce in all of our quesadillas. These peppers are rehydrating nicely. So yeah, on our the thing that this red sauce goes on most of the time is the house quesadilla or the casadilla. And that is a chicken quesadilla with peppers, onions, black beans, avocado, red sauce, and chicken. And that is our flagship quesadilla. and it's a really good, just hearty meal. We make most of our quesadillas, especially that one, with the intent to share them. Cut them into 4 big pieces. They're big quesadillas, so they're very easy to share. They're also very easy to eat whole, all at once. So just, you know, we encourage you guys to come down here with some friends. Well, usually when we have dining, come down with some friends, grab a couple quesadillas, split them between each other, figure out which ones you like. We have a few others on right now. We have our breakfast quesadilla that we always have. We have our steak and eggs quesadilla, which is another breakfast one, but just because it has eggs on it doesn't mean it's got to be breakfast. And we also have right now, currently, our cran apple bacon quesadilla. That was our fall seasonal, and that actually took off a little bit better than we expected it to. We thought it was going to be kind of a crazy combination of the cheese, onion, apple, bacon, and cranberries, but all those flavors actually really mesh pretty well together and give you a nice, even flavor. Nice, you get that sweet and savory that everybody's looking for. So what I'm doing here with this garlic is a lot of times people have a problem. They're gonna sit there and they're trying to peel the garlic like this and it takes forever. Well, my guy Bobby Flay taught me personally that you just smash it with a knife and the peel just comes right off. It's a little bit messy, but hey, if you're cooking, you're gonna be messy anyway. So just take that skin off, put it in there. You don't want to hit it too hard. You don't want to completely pulverize it, but you want to hit it hard enough to crack the garlic and get the skin off. So you might think this is a lot of garlic. You're not wrong. It is a lot. But somebody once told me that if you see a recipe that has garlic in it, double it, because you're never going to have too much garlic. A lot of the times, since garlic's such a strong spice, strong flavor, they under garlic because they're afraid that it's going to take over the dish. And in some cases that can happen. But if it calls for 1 clove and you go 2, that's not going to happen. You'll be fine. Garlic brings a big, robust flavor to almost any meal, and there's not too many dishes that can't use a little bit of garlic in them. If you ever ask me for any piece of cooking advice, it's always going to be just please season your food. Most people, I don't want to say most people, many people under season because they're afraid it's going to get a little too salty or too peppery or too spicy, and then you end up just having bland food. And there's nothing worse than getting excited about cooking something all day, get home, you cook it, or somebody else is cooking it for you, and it's just a little underwhelming because there's just a lack of complex flavor. That complex flavor comes from appropriately seasoning your food. One little tip I would give is almost anything you're gonna cook, almost anything, you can simply season it with salt, pepper, some garlic. It's never gonna be too much. Well, it can be. Season to taste usually, so what you wanna do there, seasoning to taste. You see this all over the place. Seasoning to taste is adding a little bit of salt and pepper and then tasting it to make sure it tastes good and you didn't over season. Simple as that. So right now I'm adding the chipotles and adobo. These are not what I would call spicy peppers. They're very flavorful, smoky, and the ancho chilies and these chipotles and adobo are what is going to give us the smoky, delicious, spicy flavor of this red sauce. It's a chipotle sauce, which many people know, love, and it's realistically one of my favorites, and I'm real glad that Braulio shared this recipe with us. It's really been a game changer. I use it here, I use it at home. I put it on almost any chicken dish that we use. It's just good, and it really brings out the other flavors in all the other ingredients. So now we're adding limes. Limes are going to give it a little bit of sweetness and acidity, and it's going to balance out some of that spicy flavor. Usually the recipe calls for 2. I'm putting in 4 because I'm making a double batch. This handy dandy tool right here is a juicer. You can get down and dirty and juice these with your hands. There's nothing wrong with that, but this just makes it a little bit easier. I think it's a little bit more efficient sometimes too. Gets more of the juice out. Because sometimes, you know, you're juicing enough of these, it gets a little bit hard and your hands get a little tired. Recently, I've begun doing this recipe. I've begun doing the stages of this recipe, not backwards, but in reverse. For a long time, I was sauteing the onions, garlic together, just letting that really go first, adding it with the oil, and then adding the peppers afterwards. And we were running into a problem that when we were emulsifying them, it was hard to blend up all the skin of the peppers, because those dehydrated peppers get a little bit leathery and hard to blend up sometimes when they get cooked. And so what I started doing is I watched a few videos at home and saw that a lot of the times people reconstitute the peppers first. Anything that's dried or dehydrated, just because it's going to be a little bit easier to make it whole or bring it back to life. It's actually going to be just better all around, because it's going to have a better texture. It's going to be cooking in that liquid longer. It's also going to flavor that liquid, so when you put your other foods in, it's also going to absorb that flavor. So one of the things with this tomato sauce is these tomatoes don't need to be in the best condition. They can be a little bit older. You might not put them on a sandwich or something like that, but their sauce quality is a way some people say them. They can be a little bit ugly, a little bit overripe, but as long as they're not rotten or anything like that, they're still going to do just fine. You just this is just the base of the sauce, and you just want to get a good tomatoey, acidic flavor out of this. And so some of these tomatoes are a little squishy. Some of them are maybe underripe. It's November in Michigan right now, and it's hard to get good tomatoes. So we got these from one of our food suppliers, and they're not the best tomatoes I've ever seen in my life, but for making sauces, they're going to work out just fine. All right, so now that we've gotten all of the ingredients in there, one of the last steps is we got to put in some cumin. Cumin is an interesting spice. It's used a lot in Hispanic dishes, which is where I got it from. My mom uses it all the time. My dad uses it. Braulio, it's Puerto Rican heritage, so that's why he uses it in one of his sauces, or a lot of his sauces. So that is where we get the cumin from. It brings out a nice flavor. I have a hard time describing it as anything but cumin flavor. I don't know. It's just a good, delicious flavor that brings out a lot in many items that you can cook. It's one of those multifaceted spices. You can use it in poultry, beef, pork, veggies, almost anything. Sauces. Still getting used to this giant spoon. This is the first time I've ever used it. So right now, just mixing all that cumin in together and all the ingredients, mixing them in. And we just got to let them cook down for a little bit. So I'm going to turn the heat up on this. Let it go for probably 15 to 20 minutes. You really want all the flavors to get cooked out and incorporated. The heat really brings out flavors in all of the ingredients. All right, I'm back from break, and right now this has been cooking for about 30 minutes. And I don't know if you can really see it, but we got a lot of goodness in here. Got a lot of goodness. All that garlic, onions, tomatoes, peppers, they've all been able to marry together in here, simmer down, and just develop a good, wholesome flavor. So now the next step, emulsifier. So this thing, it's just a handheld blender, but it helps out a lot so we don't have to put this into a blender or into a food processor, which just makes a big mess. So this thing's got 9 speeds and a turbo. So we'll see how this works. Never used it before. So right here we're just blending all this down, getting rid of all the chunks, and just making it into a sauce. The way these things work, there's a little blade on the bottom of them, and once you submerge them into the water and stir, it creates a vortex that pulls the sauce into the blade and just blends everything up. Tim Toolman Taylor once said, "More power." So what we do with this sauce is we put it in a squeeze bottle. So we want to make sure that we get all the big chunks of pepper and everything as finely blended up as we possibly can. Gotta make sure we get all the stuff off the walls of the pot here. I think we got it. As you can see, this is the consistency of the sauce afterward. My assistant Nick's gonna come in with some spoons so we can taste test this.
One for you.
Nicholas Gavin here.
Hello. One for me and one for you.
Oh yeah. The heat picks up middle of the end. That's actually a little spicy.
That's exactly where you want it.
Yeah.
Guy Fieri would say, "Take me to Flavor Town."
So this is the finished product. I'm not really sure how much this yields. It's going to be a lot. We usually get about, well, so it should be about 108 ounces. Nope, 128 ounces liquid. Nope, that's incorrect. I don't know how much. We usually get 2 32-ounce bottles out of one batch. This should be 4 32-ounce bottles, so that should be 142 million pounds of this sauce. So start to finish, this process is, including cook time, is probably about 45 minutes. You gotta prep all your items, cook them down, let it cook down, blend it up. It's not a very long process. You can do this at home, smaller batch. If you want the recipe, it'll be in the comments below. I said it earlier, but it'll be down there written. And I hope this has been informative, entertaining, and maybe this is something we're gonna do more of in the future. Until then, take it easy.